historic Milwaukee Theater. Tonight, you'll hear from 12 Republican candidates vying to become the next president of the United States. I'm Trish Regan, along with my co-moderator, Sandra Smith, and from the Wall Street Journal, Jerry Seid.
This evening, Fox Business is partnering with the Wall Street Journal to bring you the fourth Republican presidential debate of the 2016 campaign. For the next hour, 4 of the candidates will be here answering the questions voters want answered.
Let's introduce them. New Jersey Governor Christie. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. And Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal.
Thank you.
All right, this debate will last 1 hour. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds to respond to each question, 1 minute for each follow-up. When your time is up, you're going to hear this bell. All right, that's it. So let's begin with Governor Christie. Governor, economically, our country is struggling with some of the most anemic growth we have seen on record. More than 90 million Americans are unemployed, or they are not in the workforce altogether. The number of people now willing, able, and wanting to go to work is at a level that has fallen to a level we have not seen since the 1970s. For those that are working, wages aren't budging, while other things, costs like housing, remain high. As president, what concrete steps will you take to get America back to work?
Well, first, I want to share a story with you that relates to your question. I was in New Hampshire last week, and a woman approached me after the town hall meeting, and she said to me, Governor, I'm really concerned. I said, what are your concerns? And she said, I don't know quite how to describe it. She said, but every month when my bills come in, I feel this awful anxiety in the pit of my stomach that I'm not going to have enough money to pay them that month. There are tens of millions of Americans living that way after the worst recovery from an economic recession since World War II. And let's be clear, if we do not change course, if we follow the president's lead, and that's exactly what Secretary Clinton will do, we're going to be in the same circumstance, with government picking the winners and losers. So let me be clear about what we'll do. First, make the tax code fairer, flatter, and simpler. Get rid of all the special interest deductions. You know, the American people feel like the tax code is rigged for the rich, and you know why they feel that way? Because it is. We'll get rid of all those special interest deductions except for the home mortgage interest deduction and the charitable contribution deduction. Everyone will get lower rates, keep more of their own money, be able to file their tax returns in 15 minutes. And by the way, the good thing, I'll be able to fire a whole bunch of IRS agents once we do that. And in addition, we need to get the government off of our backs. Dodd-Frank, all the different regulation, 81,000 pages of new regulation by this administration just last year. It is suffocating small business. It is suffocating the folks who are trying to make a living. I will do what I did in New Jersey, lift it off their backs.
Thank you. Governor Huckabee, we're here in Wisconsin, a state that has seen the biggest decline in middle-class households of any American state, with more than 120,000 manufacturing jobs being lost in the last 15 years. As we move away from a manufacturing economy to a services-based, technological economy, how are you going to help the millions of Americans that are stuck in this transition?
Well, first of all, Trish, I don't know why we have to move away from manufacturing. The only reason we have is because we have a tax code that has punished manufacturing. I hear a lot of people talk about the plans to simplify the tax code. I've got one better than any of the simplifications. It's called the fair tax, and it eliminates all of the taxes on our productivity. Here's what would happen. We'd get rid of taxes on people's work, so we wouldn't punish people for working anymore. Yeah, we've lost 5 million manufacturing jobs just since the year 2000. 160,000 manufacturing plants have closed in this country, which means a lot of people that the governor is talking about, he's exactly right. They don't have jobs anymore. And the reason they don't have jobs is because their jobs are in Mexico, they're in China, they're in Indonesia. Bring the jobs back. And with the fair tax, you do that because you don't tax capital and labor, and you bring a real sense of equity to the opportunity so that people will not only make it easier to function, they'll get the manufacturing jobs back. And here's the best part. We don't reduce the IRS. We get rid of the IRS. We completely eliminate them because the government has no business knowing how much money we make and how we made it. It's none of their business. And that's why I believe that manufacturing is critical. If we can't feed ourselves, fuel ourselves, and fight for ourselves, we can't be free. And by the way, fighting for ourselves means manufacturing our own weapons of self-defense.
Thank you, Governor Huckabee.
Senator Santorum, you're all obviously highly critical of President Obama's economic record, but federal statistics show that payrolls have expanded by 8.7 million new jobs so far during his time in office. All the jobs lost in the recession were recovered by last year. And in October, the economy added jobs at the fastest rate since 2009. So what's wrong with the Obama jobs record?
The middle of America's hollering. All I have to do is listen to the last Democratic debate. You would think there was a Republican president in office, the way they complained about how bad things are in America and how the middle of America is hollowing out. I agree with Mike Huckabee. I spent this morning in Chicago at FabTech, which is a sheet metal fabricators conference. Thousands of people there displaying the latest and newest technologies. You know what I was told? I was told when I went to booth after booth that there are 250,000 welder jobs open in America. 250,000 welder jobs, paying anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 a year. And if you want to weld pipe on for oil and gas pipelines, you can make $100,000 a year. Every manufacturer, I go to one every single week. In fact, I have with me in the crowd here today a gentleman who is a supporter of mine from Rockwell, Texas, Ed Grand Lenar, and he runs Special Products. And he tells me he has jobs open in every skill that he could possibly hire for in Rockwell, Texas, but he can't find people. So the issue is, yes, we need a tax code. I propose a 20% flat tax, 20% on corporations, 20% on individuals, full expensing, which will be powerful for manufacturing, a 0% rate initially for manufacturers. We're going to have a very powerful tax code. We're going to do something about regulation. We're going to suspend every single Obama regulation that cost over $100,000 to the economy. But we have to start doing something about training and employing people who are sitting on the sidelines because they don't see a path. And we have a bureaucracy in Washington, and a president in Washington, and even among Republicans who think everybody has to go to college. People need to go to work, and we need to provide opportunities for them to go to work out of high school.
All right, Governor Jindal, you have pushed Louisiana's energy-rich resources as a means to grow jobs in your state. But as oil prices have plunged in recent months, so has jobs growth. Louisiana now has an unemployment rate above the national average. Will your energy-focused jobs plan for the country be subject to the same market ups and downs?
Well, a couple of things. In Louisiana, we're actually a top 10 state for job growth. As we sit here today, we have more people working in Louisiana than ever before, earning a higher income than ever before. We've had 60 months in a row of consecutive job growth in our state. So the reality is we have diversified our economy. Yes, I've got an energy plan that says all of the above that creates good manufacturing jobs in America. We've also got one of the fastest growing IT sectors by percentage. We are growing Louisiana's economy. But let me get to the point that is, I think, the most important issue here tonight. You're going to have several hours of debate on the economy, and we're going to have a great discussion about energy plans and tax rates, and that's all great. The most important thing we have to do, we have a fundamental choice to make, folks. Are we willing to cut the government economy so we can grow the American economy? That is the most fundamental question we've got to answer. We are on the path to socialism right now. These are mutually exclusive. The hour is late, but it is not too late for America. Under President Obama, you asked about his economy. We've got record dependence, record number of Americans on food stamps, record low participation rate in the workforce. This is a fundamental choice. Sending a big government Republican to D.C. is not enough to fix this problem. It's not enough just to beat Hillary Clinton. We've got to change the direction of our country. What that means is let's shrink the government, not slow its growth rate, but actually shrink the government so we can grow the American economy. That is the fundamental issue we should be debating here tonight.
All right, Governor Jindal, thank you.
Governor Christie, you have said that the Democrats' message is one of, quote, free stuff. In contrast, Republicans want to reduce spending. How do you win a national election when the Democrats are offering free health care, a free or subsidized college education, and you're the party that is seemingly offering nothing in the way of immediate, tangible benefits?
Yeah, sure. If anybody believes the stuff they heard from that Democratic debate a few weeks ago, there's nothing for free. What they forgot to tell you was that they're going to raise your tax rates to 70 or 80% in order to provide all of that stuff. But let me ask the folks at home one very simple question. Do you want to give Washington more control over your life? Do you think they're doing such a great job that now let's have them control what our corporations pay their employees? Let's have them control every aspect of our economy? Is Washington doing that good a job for you right now? And the fact is that if you listen to Hillary Clinton, she's made it very clear. She believes that she can make decisions for you better than you can make them for yourself. She believes that Washington, D.C. should pick the winners and losers in our economy and in our life. And here's what I believe as a Republican. I believe the greatness of America is not in its government. The greatness of America is in the American people. And what we need to do is get the government the hell out of the way and let the American people win once again.
Senator Santorum, a single mom with no job and 2 kids in New Hampshire, home of the first in the nation primary, is eligible for more than $30,000 a year in benefits. Even if she could find a job, she would need to find childcare. And in many cases, she may conclude it's better for her to live off government benefits. Senator, how do you help and incentivize her to go to work? And if you're the one that's going to cut her benefits, why should she vote for you?
Well, the answer is first that we need to do something about a tax code that does penalize. One thing that I'm really excited about our tax code proposed changes is very pro-family. You have a $2,700 tax credit, period, for every person in that family. So that family, would have about an $8,000 tax credit, which would be refundable. So every dollar she works, she's still only losing 20 cents. The problem with the tax code today, because of all the different provisions, you're right. You go back to work, you lose welfare benefits, you're losing money. Throw on top of that even a bigger problem. Over 50% of children being raised in a home today of a single mom are raised in a home where the father is living at the time the child is born. Now, what does that mean? That means we have incentivized people not to marry. We've incentivized people to cohabitate instead of marry. Why? Because mom will lose welfare benefits if Mary's father. It's not just mom going back to work, but it's mother and father marrying to form a more stable family for that child to be raised in a 2-parent family. So we've got all sorts of really corrupt incentives that were put in place, well-meaning by the left. But we need to remove those. We need to remove those incentives. We need to adopt a tax code that says we're going to be pro-family and pro-work, and that's what we'll do.
Thank you, Senator.
Governor Huckabee, you have characterized entitlement reform as both political and economic suicide. Taxpayers currently spend more than $600 billion per year on social welfare programs with the intended goal of getting people back on their feet and working again. Today, a record number of Americans aren't even looking for work. Are our social welfare programs, while well-intended, creating a culture of dependency? If so, how will you fix it?
Well, Senator, first of all, let me mention the fact that I think there's a big difference between welfare programs and what some people call entitlements, namely Social Security and Medicare. I just want to remind everybody out there who's ever had a paycheck, the government didn't ask you if you wanted them to take money out of your check for Social Security and Medicare. They did that involuntarily. Those are not entitlements, and that's not welfare. That's an earned benefit, and by gosh, you paid for it. And if the government screwed it up, you shouldn't have to pay the penalty because of an incompetent government. That's different than the social programs that we've spent $2 trillion on since the war on poverty began exactly 50 years ago this year. Now, the reason we still have so much poverty is because it was never designed to get people out of poverty. It was designed to make sure that there was an industry of poverty so that the people in the poverty industry would have a lot of jobs. But the people who are poor haven't been benefited. Having grown up poor, I know a little something about it. Nobody who is poor wants to be. That's a nonsense statement, and I hear it all the time. Well, poor people ought to work harder. They're working as hard as they can, for gosh sake. But the problem is the system keeps pushing them down, because if they work, then they get punished. They lose all the benefits. When we did welfare reform in the 90s, you know what we did? We said, you're not going to lose everything at once. There's not an arbitrary threshold. So as you move up the ladder from work and training, you'll actually always be better off than you were before. That's the American way.
All right. Thank you, Governor.
Governor Jindal, Republicans have now won 32 of the nation's 50 governor seats. But even while you're doing very well at the state level, you keep falling short nationally. You've lost the popular vote in 5 of the last 6 presidential elections. Are Democrats simply putting forward a better national economic message than the one Republicans are offering? And what should Republicans do about it?
No, I think right now there's not a much difference between the two parties. The reason we keep losing nationally is we try to be cheaper versions of the Democratic Party. What if Republicans actually embraced our own principles? So I earlier said if you want bigger paychecks, you want more jobs, you want less government dependence, you're going to have to cut government spending. Here's the dirty little secret. You're going to hear a lot of Republicans tonight in this debate, the next one, talk about cutting government spending. It's going to sound great. There's only one of us that's actually cut government spending. Not 2, there is 1, and you're looking at him. We've got 4 senators running. They've never cut anything in D.C. They give these long speeches called filibusters. They pat themselves on the back. Nothing changes. When they go to relieve themselves, their cars and the toilets get flushed at the same time, and the American people lose. We've got a bunch of governors running. We've got 7 current former governors running. I'm the only one that has cut government spending. Everybody else can talk about it. If they haven't done it in their state capitals, what makes us think they'll do it if we send them to D.C.? Look, when politicians talk, we need to look at what they have done, not what they have said. Otherwise, it's a bunch of hot air. We've cut our budget 26%. Record number of Louisianians working. If Republicans want to win national elections, let's be conservatives. Let's be Republicans. Let's not be a second version of the liberal party. Let's cut government spending and grow the American economy.
You have something to add, Governor.
Well, I'd just like to respond, with all due respect to the governor, to the state just south of me. I would say that a lot of us have cut things. And during the recession of 2001 through 2003, when 91% of our state budget was basically 3 things: educate, medicate, and incarcerate, we ended up cutting 11% out of the state budget through that recession, so we didn't have to go in and raise a bunch of taxes, and there were people who thought we should. So it's just not accurate to say that nobody else up here has ever cut. I believe every governor has probably had to make tough decisions. I'm guessing my colleague Governor Christie has, as I'm tossing him the ball like Arkansas did to Ole Miss the other day.
Wait. I want to respond. He has criticized something I've said. I want to respond to that. Mike, with all due respect, I admire your social views. I share many of those views. Your record as governor tells a different story. During your time as governor, spending in Arkansas went up 65%. Number of state workers went up 20%. The taxes for the average citizen went up 47%. That's not a record of cutting. I'm saying we've actually cut. We've reduced the size of our budget. So wanting to cut is one thing. Actually cutting is a different thing. Facts don't lie.
All right. Well, let's bring Governor Christie in
Sandra,
on this, because
before we get too far away, he specifically brought out some things about the record that I need to correct.
All right, well, let's keep the conversation going. Let's bring Governor Christie in here, because we're talking about national debt climbing towards $19 trillion, Governor. Our federal government employs nearly 3 million workers. Our tax code is more than 74,000 pages long. If you're elected president, Governor Christie, what concrete steps would you take to reduce the size of the federal government?
First off, let me just say this in response to this back and forth. For the people who are out there right now, I want to guarantee you one thing, real clearly. If you think that Mike Huckabee won't be the kind of president who will cut back spending, or Chris Christie or John Kasich, wait till you see what Hillary Clinton will do to this country and how she will drown us in debt. She is the real adversary tonight, and we better stay focused as Republicans on her. Now, I put forward an entitlement reform plan. We spend 71 cents of every dollar in America on entitlements and debt service. And Willie Sutton used to say, when they asked him why he robbed banks, he said that's because it's where the money is. Okay? And where the money is in the federal government are these entitlement programs and debt service. What I've said is we need to get a hold of that. We cannot continue to go down the $19 trillion in debt. And so our plan will save over $1 trillion over the next 10 years and make sure that Social Security and Medicare are there for those who truly need it, and also make sure that we have money to be able to reduce taxes and spend on the things we need to spend. I will also, on my first day as president, sign an executive order that says no more regulation for the next 120 days by any government agency or department. We are drowning in regulation. Stop, and then we'll go out there and we'll cut and reduce regulation that small business owners across this country want us to do. You'll grow the economy then, more money will come into the system, and we'll get more closer to balance. But the bottom line is, believe me, Hillary Clinton's coming for your wallet, everybody. Don't worry about Huckabee or Jindal. Worry about her.
Governor Christie, thank you.
All right, we are just getting started. Medicare, Social Security, and the future of Obamacare. That is all straight ahead, live from Milwaukee and the Republican presidential debates.